Recording in progress.
ये दिवाली UPI से SIP वाली. That's right. You've heard it first with Mirae Asset. We are proud to announce the first of its kind UPI Autopay mandate for systematic investment plans, investments in mutual fund schemes, which will allow you and the investors to automate their recurring SIPs through the United Payment Interface, which is popularly known as UPI. Now, as we all know, UPI has already revolutionized payments with UPI Autopay, and we are introducing a new facility which has the potential to revolutionize SIPs further. We are extremely confident that this facility should help our investors and our distributors in times to come to help plan for their investors and use this facility for their SIP planning in a much better form. To know more about this unique facility, we are joined by two distinguished guests today. Let me introduce our first guest, Mr. Karthik Ganapathy. Karthik Ganapathy is a co-founder and vice president of BillDesk, India's largest electronic payment solutions platform that enables over $90 billion of digital payments annually. Karthik, along with his partners, co-founded BillDesk in 2000 at the dawn of the millennium. For over a decade, BillDesk has been the leader in driving electronic payments and digital commerce. BillDesk technology and solutions continue to make consumer electronic payments easier for everyone, and that's what we found in our endeavor of launching this product, to use them as a partner for this solution. He is among few elite who have IIT and IIM both in their resume under academics, and we'll probably talk a little bit more about it later. Karthik, welcome to the webinar.
Thank you, Srinivas. Congratulations to the entire Mirae team. I'm very proud and delighted to be part of this really exciting initiative. Please carry on.
Thank you, Karthik. Our second guest today is Mr. Narayanan VM, Vice President ITMFS DSS KFin Technologies. VNM, as is popularly known, is a techno-functional mutual fund professional with over 20 years of experience in fund services domain, covering across transfer agency, fund administration, custody, product development, and product management and technology. In his previous roles, he was also instrumental in reimagining the technology processes covering infra security, access controls, business continuity, application deployments, and change management. He also holds a bachelor's degree in mathematics, a postgraduate in commerce, and is also associate member of Institute of Cost Management of Accountants of India and the Institute for Company Secretaries of India. Cost accountant in IT, that's a unique combination. We'll probably delve a little bit more later during the conversation. VNM, welcome to this launch webinar.
Thank you, Srinivas. Thanks for having me. Many congratulations to entire Mirae team on this innovative single journey solution, and look forward to more such new launches with Mirae. And back to you.
Thank you. So today, as we have already heard about the introductions for the two gentlemen, these are now two distinguished members from their own fields of technology and operations. And together we are going to talk more about the UPI Autopay facility. That's a new facility that Mirae Asset, KFin Tech, and BillDesk have jointly developed. And we're going to talk about what it is all about, how does it work. But since we have Karthik with us today, let me first turn to you before we go to the product and we talk about, how does it work. Now, my first question to you, Karthik, is BillDesk has been settling payments for ages in India, and especially for investment products like mutual funds, etc. Now, can you share some light on the changes in the landscape of payments How has the evolution been from the days of, let me put it, PDC checks, NEFT, IMPS, and now to UPI? What's been the changes?
Yeah, thanks, Srinivas. So, it's been a very fairly exciting and a long journey for us at BillDesk, and the mutual fund industry in particular, Srinivas, has a very soft and a special spot in our hearts, and I'll tell you why. It's a little anecdotal, but here is how the story goes. In 2001, when BillDesk first launched, one of the primary goals was basically to figure out how a lot of the physical payments that customers do in terms of bill payments and regular payments, how could those be converted into an electronic mode? And that is primarily the challenge that we were trying to address. The idea was that we create a kind of a platform and an infrastructure and see how the technology around the banking and the digital technologies evolve, and then create a proposition. Unfortunately, in the first few years, as we all know, the cash and check and similar payment modes is what continued to keep on increasing and rising. And really, we couldn't understand what is it that we could do from an electronic perspective because customer adoption was really low. At that point, one of the key products that the Reserve Bank of India had, which is the then electronic clearing service, is what really came to our rescue. And what you won't believe is in those initial few years, the level of adoption that the mutual fund industry did by using the ECS as a payment method to set up standing instructions or systematic investment plans through their distributors is really unprecedented. They, over the next 4 to 5 years, and BillDesk worked closely with that industry to see how we could create solutions and power recurring payments for them. So a good deal of effort came in from the mutual fund industry in terms of creating the right kind of process for it. And we were able to, what I call is electronize in the back end a fairly large customer base for recurring payments, and that served well for the mutual fund industry. Subsequent 4 to 8 years were a slew of innovation that happened really in the payments world. And the mutual fund industry also picked that up and adopted that fairly well. And this is what we call as the entire stream of online payment journeys that came in. So here is when the banks had already implemented a good deal of technology, and they had a good set of customers who were ready to come online and make payments. And the mutual fund industry again adopted that, and a lot of we saw a lot of customers go online and use payment methods like the internet banking, or they would transfer money through their RTGS. Corporates would do that through the bulk large ticket payments would come through RTGS. And internet banking and debit card essentially came in as primarily two major payment methods for customers and investors to invest in. All this while, the recurring payments continued to remain on the rails as we were just talking, which is ECS, which then became NACH, which is a National Automated Clearing House. And sometime around 2015-16 is when the topic of today's conversation, which is UPI, got seeded. And RBI's vision.
UPI came in 2016 as the first.
Yes,
UPI
yes. The germination of the thought process around this, the brainstorming sessions around how this had to be done. We believe that that was like literally a milestone, a momentous moment in the history of payments, because it encapsulated the Reserve Bank of India vision in terms of all the pillars that it speaks of, which is basically integrity, inclusion, innovation, institutionalization, and internationalization. All these 5 objectives, it embedded it into the construct or the framework of UPI and said that we will deliver this by making sure that the typical challenges that are seen in the payments world, which is the cost has to be very low, it has to be very fast and quick, which is what it makes it because it's online, and it has to be accessible. So the whole concept of inclusion, and then transparent. So as a customer or an investor, I need to have control. So this got established, and over the next 5 years, through till 2023, I think India is witness to a transformation that puts it in the top league. It is number 1 in the world as far as digital payments is concerned. We did about over 120 billion payments, and the next 4 countries all put together don't do as many payments as India does. So it is extremely fascinating, and I am so thrilled to today have this very close to my heart industry, the mutual fund industry, and then Mirae as yourselves having, very quickly adopted this channel, and how now you are rolling out UPI Autopay to all your customers. So this has been a journey, and I think it's ongoing, and we'll see much more going ahead in the future.
So we're getting some requests that if we can maybe have some questions and answers in Hindi, we'll try to do that because we have few people from whose language may not be native, so we'll try to address that also. But what Karthik said, 2016 is a momentous year, and we consider that because if you look at it in India, UPI started. Cheaper internet came with one service provider coming in. We had the first round of lowerization of the interest rates, and we also had the yesterday was the 7th anniversary of the demonetization. Now, all those things led to a digital environment being present. फिर COVID हुआ, and COVID probably acted as a catalyst, and that's where we've seen the digital payments network sort of pick up, and we've also witnessed that in the mutual fund industry as to how people have adopted digital players coming in, and even the distribution network. Probably they were the earlier adopters by going to exchanges and setting up accounts for investors. The whole online DIY digital sort of came in much during COVID or just before that.
Correct.
So thanks for sort of throwing some light on that. So now, can you probably let me ask a follow-up question on UPI as to how is now it's revolutionizing mutual fund payments? If you could throw some light specifically on the mutual fund things.
So, UPI as a payment method, when it first started, the team behind UPI, which is the NPCI team and RBI, and after that, the entire ecosystem, they adopted a multi-pronged approach really to make or to let UPI make its mark. And here is how. Like in any payment system across the world, the first, and what I mean is like a universal payment system, right? The first adoption of that invariably is a person-to-person or a peer-to-peer transfer kind of a use case that typically gets done. And hence, I think the initial effort, or one very large effort that was done on the UPI side, was about just getting the habit and making sure that customers are able to sign in and get to link their accounts with their UPI handles, and then start basically just sending money to each other. This coupled with the mobile revolution and the introduction of the third-party application providers, completely kind of made UPI as a very easy tool for everyone to access their accounts and send money. The next implementation that got done, and I'll come to why MF came like a bit after the three steps. The second implementation that came is the P2M, the person to merchant flows, which the ecosystem worked on. And there the initial merchants were merchants where a customer is already very, very used to, going in and doing a transaction, one-time payment as we call it. So this is around the time that the mutual fund industry also took up UPI as a payment option. And as customer adoption increased, as the number of ecosystem players increased, as the number of customers coming into this segment increased, the one-time payments continued to keep going on the rise. About 2 to 3 years back is when the UPI team innovated on this offering and started putting in the thought process of an auto pay on the UPI stack. Okay. And very interestingly, around the same time, the Reserve Bank of India also came up with what is well known now in the industry as e-mandate guidelines. And essentially, this is another momentous point in the Indian payment industry. And let me tell you, Srinivas and the team, that for a very long while, the method of implementing a recurring payment for a merchant was restricted to some of the physical modes like the NACH, where you had to physically sign, and it was at best restricted to a credit card, which is a very small segment of a population who would really have a credit card. With UPI Autopay, and there was also debit card autopay, but largely UPI Autopay, this completely revolutionized the large level of subscriptions that you could really implement online. And that is where the thoughts around how a systematic investment plan can be also extended using UPI Autopay first came in. The third important stage in this entire development was about making sure that this product got customized for the mutual fund industry. So the mutual fund industry has very specific requirements like account validation and making sure that there is a certain workflow that is there for getting in the mandate from the customer, and then operational journeys in terms of both at the mutual fund and at the RTA and the processing partner in terms of how data has to travel, etc. Those things got fixed, and that is when the mutual fund adoption on UPI Autopay really has taken off. And this is where we are at this point in time. Now, how will it revolutionize? I think it's only our imagination that we have to let fly. So what typically was, a very distribution oriented, third-party distribution oriented play can now become a direct-to-consumer play. So this will really help you do that. Second is the speed, right? The mandate now is set up instantly. The moment the customer approves, the mandate is set up, and hence the speed at which the customer can enter into the SIP is instant, really, it's real time. And then I think the third and more important thing one has to also understand is this is all happening digitally, and therefore the ability of the fund house to innovate different kinds of products using UPI as a stack is now going to be phenomenal. So you can even look at daily SIPs, you can look at market end SIPs, you can look at peak SIPs, you can look at different micro SIPs, you can look at different formats that you want to play with, because the platform is there, the whole thing is digital, and the access is also there. So I think now there is a lot of dreaming that can be done, and that is how we think that UPI Autopay can revolutionize the mutual fund world.
Right, Karthik. I think technology and financial technology, fintech is for dreamers because we have a lot of new developments happening, and we'll come to that towards the end. What sort of other developments are you guys looking at from a innovation point of view going ahead? But first, let me turn to VNM. VNM, on the topic of UPI, can you throw some light on what is the adoption rates of UPI among MF investors? Are you guys at KFintech finding traction? What are the trends that you guys are seeing? If you could throw some light for the audience before we turn towards the product offering and then talk about how does it actually work. And we'll also show a small demo for everyone and on the website, how does it work. But before that, at an ecosystem level, what are you seeing?
Yeah, I think we at KFintech, we are looking at various payments options being used by investors on lump sum payment, which is a one-time subscription. Predominantly, that is still dominated by net banking or internet banking, where customers have to remember the user ID and their passwords. This is kind of replaced when the UPI was launched, where there is no need for remembering these credentials, and the adoption rate I'm seeing consistently increasing, right? I think I would say about 70% still predominantly internet banking. 30%, I would say at KFin level, we have this UPI adoption going for the subscriptions. Okay. And like Karthik said, mandate-based subscriptions, they are also dominating quite a bit. I would imagine that it is probably also to do with the way the transaction limits have been coming down largely, where we are making it very consciously for investors to be able to invest into mutual funds. Okay, the ticket size has also contributed to easy and quick adoption of UPI as a payment option. I think it's going to be a great story for UPI for all the reasons that Karthik just mentioned. Most importantly, the ease with which the payment can be done, right? Just a click of an accept reject button, then the payment gets done. That's the convenience that is seeing the fast adoption.
Great. Now for the investors' benefit, जो लोग देख रहे हैं आज, इन्वेस्टर के लिए बहुत सारे ऑप्शंस हैं. OTM है, one time mandate, e-NACH है, and now there's internet SIP also for people who are registering on website. और अब हम UPI Autopay लेके आए. If you have to just highlight the differences, okay, between e-NACH, between OTM, iSIP, and say UPI Autopay today. And differences can be highlighted from amount, from timing, registration में कितना time लगता है, process. If you could just put it in nutshell for the investors.
Sure. So when I look at SIPs, particularly with our focus is on UPI Autopay with SIP. I said in terms of enabling starting an SIP, the process is like the investor has to go to his banking site, do the registration at his banking site with mutual fund as a biller. Okay. I'm not so fluent in Hindi, so
no problem. I'll probably once you finish, I'll pick up some anecdotes and explain it.
Sure. Okay. So there is some work that the investor has to do, right, to start the iSIP. It's not immediate, and there is some follow-up action. He is able to request for a SIP commencement easily, but actual commencement is largely dependent on the investor completing certain set of actions on his side, and nudging, continuous reminders. This, all these related processes have to be in place so that it gets successful. Okay. On the NASH, which is basically a physical process, and eNASH, both are like Karthik mentioned, NPCI related processing platforms, where the mandates are routed through NPCI, gets registered with the customer's bank account. There is a delay, there is a lag, particularly for physicals to get. I think with eNASH and the registration can happen instantly. Registration happens, but using that registration for somebody to commence an SIP, it takes a lot of time. Okay, so that is on the eNASH. With the UPI Autopay, there is a possibility to immediately register and start the SIP registrations going immediately. That's where this convenience is going to be very attractive for the investors. The important aspects around this are ability to start the investments quickly. Of course, there is, you mentioned the limits. The limits on the UPI Autopay, I think it is around 15,000 right now. But on the eNASH and OTM and on the ISEP, there are no such limitations. I think eNASH is having a. You need to guide me here. I think what's the limit? 10 lakhs, is it?
So yeah, so I think
That
this one.
revised they revised this to 1 crore recently, I think, with effect from 1st of November.
Yes. So VNM जी ने अभी जो समझाया, just I'm just translating it for the audience here. VNM जी ने अभी जो समझाया कि अगर आप eNACH mandate या ISIP mandate या OTM mandate जो यूज करते हो, तो उसमें आप रजिस्ट्रेशन करने के बाद एक वेटिंग पीरियड होता है. तो वो वेटिंग पीरियड डिपेंडिंग कि आपने कौन सा फैसिलिटी यूज किया है, वो 10 दिन से 25 दिन के बीच में होता है. बट यूपीआई ऑटोपे की खासियत ये है कि आप जिस दिन रजिस्टर करोगे उसके 72 घंटे के अंदर अंदर, 3 दिन के अंदर अंदर आप अपनी एसआईपी शुरू कर सकते. तो आपने अगर आज यूपीआई मैंडेट रजिस्टर किया वेबसाइट पे, तो चौथे दिन पे आपकी एसआईपी शुरू हो. एंड दैट इज द बिग चेंज विच इज कमिंग थ्रू. एंड आगे चल के शायद ये टाइम और भी क्रंच हो जाए, बट इस समय अभी ये है. और जो लिमिट है यूपीआई ऑटोपे में करने का, वो है 15,000 रुपए. 15,000 तक आप यूपीआई ऑटोपे यूज करके अपनी एसआईपी तुरंत शुरू कर सकते हैं. जो बाकी ऑप्शंस में जहां पे अमाउंट, अगर आपको ज्यादा अमाउंट की करनी होगी तो यहाँ पे नहीं होगी, बट अगर आपको ज्यादा अमाउंट की करनी है तो आपको बाकी ऑप्शंस यूज करने पड़ेंगे. और उसका जो अवधि है, जो रजिस्ट्रेशन की अवधि है, वो थोड़ी सी लंबी है. तो ये एक यूनिक फीचर है. अब हम रुक करते हैं कि हमारी वेबसाइट पे जो फीचर हमने लाया है वो कैसे चलेगा. तो हम एक छोटा सा वीडियो प्ले करने वाले हैं और उसके दौरान हम एक्सप्लेन करेंगे कि ये प्रोसेस कैसे काम करता है. जस्ट गिव मी 1 सेकेंड टू शेयर द वीडियो. जी, तो जैसे आप यहाँ पे देख सकते हैं कि जो आपको हमारे वेबसाइट miraeassetmf.co.in पे आना है और आपका जो यूजर आईडी है वो डाल के आप अपना पैन या पासवर्ड के साथ उसमें लॉगिन कर सकते हैं. जब आप उसमें साइन इन कर लेंगे तो आपको एक ओटीपी आएगा जो आपके मोबाइल नंबर पे आएगा। आप वो जब वो ओटीपी एंटर करके आगे बढ़ते हैं तो आप जो मेन स्क्रीन पे आ जाएंगे। मेन स्क्रीन पे आते ही अगर आप देखोगे कि लेफ्ट हैंड साइड में मैंडेट रजिस्ट्रेशन है, जहां पे यूपीआई ऑटो पे रजिस्ट्रेशन का फीचर दिया गया। जैसे ही आप यूपीआई ऑटो पे में आते हैं, आपको अपने जो दो बैंक्स हैं जो आपने रजिस्टर किए हैं, एक बैंक होगा तो एक होगा, तीन होंगे तो तीन होंगे, फोर होंगे तो फोर होंगे। यहाँ पे आके आपको अपने डिटेल्स भरने हैं, और जैसे आप देख रहे हैं कि मैक्सिमम अमाउंट जो है हमारे पास वो 15,000 के आसपास। यहाँ पे आपको अपना डिटेल्स डाल के, आप बैंक अकाउंट डाल के आप आगे बढ़ोगे। और जैसे आप फीचर देख रहे हैं यहाँ पे, आप तुरंत ही, क्योंकि हमने ये अभी 3-4 दिन पहले ये एक्सरसाइज किया, तो आप देख सकते हो कि 7 तारीख की डेट आ रही है। वो हमने 3 तारीख को ये डेमो बनाया था। तो इसमें आप अपना बैंक यूपीआई आईडी डालना बहुत जरूरी है। जिस भी बैंक का आपका आईडी है वो डालना जरूरी है। अगर आपको नहीं याद है कि ये आईडी कहाँ पे है, तो अगर आप गूगल पे या फोन पे या पेटीएम या भीम यूपीआई आप यूज करते हैं, तो वहां पे आप अपना आईडी देख सकते हैं, और वो आईडी आपको यहाँ प्लेस करना होगा। कंफर्मेशन स्क्रीन आ जाती है, जहाँ पे आपको बताया जाता है कि ये कहाँ पे कौन सी स्कीम में आपने कितना पैसा आपने चूज किया है। और फिर जब आप कंफर्म करोगे, तब आपके जो आपका मैंडेट है, जिस बैंक के साथ है, अगर वो आईडी आप कोई भी अलग जगह पे यूज कर रहे हो, जीपे में या पेटीएम में, वहां पे आपको स्क्रीन पे ऑथोराइजेशन आएगा। आप जब वो ऑथोराइज करते हो, आपके बैंक अकाउंट में 1 रुपया क्रेडिट होगा वैलिडेशन के लिए। और वो वैलिडेशन के बाद आफ्टर सम टाइम वो अमाउंट डेबिट भी हो जाएगा, बिकॉज यहाँ पे हम आपके बैंक का जो, ये अकाउंट आपका ही है नहीं है, थर्ड पार्टी वेरिफिकेशन रूल्स है, वो वो कंप्लीट होने के बाद आपको कंफर्मेशन स्क्रीन आ जाता है, विच विल टॉक अबाउट कि आपका मैंडेट ऑथोराइज हो चुका है। और जो डेट आपने सिलेक्ट करी है, मिनिमम आप 3 दिन के बाद का ले सकते हैं, बट उसके बाद आपने जो डेट सिलेक्ट करी है एसआईपी के लिए, वो शुरू हो जाएगा। और देखिए, जैसे अभी बीच में जो चल रहा था उसमें पीछे में कंफर्मेशन चल रहा था, यहाँ पे आपका मैंडेट सक्सेसफुली रजिस्टर। तो ये दिस इज हाउ द फ्लो हैपेंस ऑन द वेबसाइट। जो आप डैशबोर्ड पे फिर चले जाओगे तो आपको वहां पे अंडर दी मैंडेट रजिस्ट्रेशन समरी एक अलग टैब है, जहां पे आपको दिख जाएगा कि आपने अभी अभी एक एसआईपी रजिस्टर करी है, जिसकी डेट शुरू होगी, और आप मैक्सिमम 30 इयर्स के लिए आप ये रजिस्ट्रेशन कर सकते हैं, राइट। तो अभी आपको फीचर दिखाया जा रहा है कि आप जाके स्कीम सिलेक्ट कर रहे हो। एक वी हैव जस्ट टेकन वन सैंपल स्क्रीन हियर, स्कीम हियर टू शो हाउ डज द फैसिलिटी वर्क। फिर आप आगे जाते हैं, आप जो अमाउंट आपने सिलेक्ट किया है 15,000 तक आप कर सकते हो। यहाँ पे 1,000 रुपीज सिलेक्ट किया गया है। तो यहाँ पे आपको फिर से आपके डिटेल्स दिखेंगे, और इसके आगे बढ़ने से आप अभी एसआईपी कंप्लीट करो। सो ये 2 लेग प्रोसेस है। वन इज आप एसआईपी ऑटो पे रजिस्टर कर रहे हो आपके मैंडेट के साथ, और दूसरा है एक्चुअल स्कीम सिलेक्ट कर रहे हो टू डू दी एसआईपी। फिर यहाँ पे आप देख रहे हैं कि वो कंफर्मेशन स्क्रीन के बाद एक ओटीपी डाला जाएगा, और इसके बाद आपका जो एसआईपी है वो रजिस्टर हो जाएगा जिस तारीख से आपने सिलेक्ट किया। सो देखिए, अब प्रोसेस हो रहा है इस समय। प्रोसेसिंग में बैकएंड में देयर इज अ एसआईपी रजिस्ट्रेशन प्रोसेस विच इज गोइंग ऑन। जैसे ये प्रोसेस बैकएंड का कंप्लीट हो जाता है, आपको एक कंफर्मेशन स्क्रीन आ जाता है कि आपकी एसआईपी ऑटो यूपीआई ऑटो पे मैंडेट के साथ सक्सेसफुली रजिस्टर हो गई है। और ये चीज आपको अब आगे चल के फिर से आपके डैशबोर्ड में। सो दिस इज हाउ द प्रोसेस फ्लो इज एट द मोमेंट। This is only available on our website for investors, But in coming times, this facility will be available for our distributors also under the Distributor Initiated Transaction Portal, which is called the DIT. It will also be, we are also working on two new digital asset solutions, app and WhatsApp. And most likely we will be able to give you some good news very soon about the launch dates for those. So ये facility in times will be available on all our digital platforms for you to use. So yes, so that was the process of registering UPI Autopay and going ahead and setting up an SIP. Now the two gentlemen are patiently waiting and listening and seeing how the process is working. I'll turn back to them. So last question before we probably, if there are questions from our audience, and we'll take those. What are the new things? And this question is to both Karthik and VNM. What are the new things that you guys are looking at from a tech perspective? Is there anything exciting which is happening apart from or on building on this tax? If something new is happening which is exciting you guys, if you are at the liberty to share with the audience, please do that. If compliance stops you from doing that, then no problem, we'll move to the question section.
So I can take a shot at it first, and then see if there are any more questions. So I think the first and foremost is that we are looking at this milestone as the basic infrastructure in tech that is really needed for us to start offering a kind of a functionality or a feature to the customer. So the stage at which we are right now is what I call as the level 0, which is like a bare bone that is needed for us to even start talking about the service flow, and like how VNM and you mentioned about the time it takes, about all that, right? So that is where we are. Now, clearly, one of the core objectives is to, from a technology perspective, is to figure and establish greater efficiencies on this particular implementation to start with. The idea is that over a period of time, a lot of additional loops, additional hooks, additional customer experiences, all those have to be built on. So this becomes our first stage. And the second stage that we see is about how we can use this particular channel to work with our partners like you to figure more of personalized and more of efficient products that specifically suit the customer's requirements. So here we are really talking about a large scale mass customization kind of journeys, how a certain product that can fit the risk profile of a customer, how those kind of things can get offered. And at the same time, we are giving so much of control and ability to the customer to manage it that it becomes very simple to get in and get out, and at the same time transparently have a good understanding of everything that is there. So this will obviously mean in the technology backend, we work on aspects like analytics, we work on aspects like fraud management, we work on aspects like superior success rates for customers, better error and related communication. So these are basic areas that we think that things will move towards.
I largely agree with Karthik there. Actually, so this is a payment innovation and an ease with the customer to start SIP immediately. Okay, so passing the SIP and canceling the mandate itself, enabling the holding it for some. So these are the further conveniences that will need to be extended to the customer on this. We will definitely work on those areas And with the BillDesk, we are working on a few other initiatives also, which will bring convenience to the customer. That would be the key focus for us. And I cannot say more on this further, but that's the direction which we are working on.
Thank you, Karthik. Thank you, VNM, for your thoughts on what's going to happen in future and how we're going to use this. We'll turn to a few questions. There are a few questions which are flowing in. One is about Mr. Divakar has asked, is this UPI Autopay registration based on folio or on PAN level? Divakarji, the answer is it's at a folio level. Second question which is coming in is there is Mr. Kamal who has asked a question that you already registered SIP from net banking, how to register SIP from UPI Autopay. I think Kamal ji, हमने demo दिखाया था. We'll probably host the demo on somewhere that how do you use it. But अगर आप हमारे वेबसाइट पे लॉग इन करेंगे तो डेफिनेटली आपको मैंडेट रजिस्ट्रेशन के अंडर यूपीआई ऑटोपे एज मैंडेट दिखेगा. आप वो यूज कर सकते हैं. Another question is for Mr. Divakar again. There's a question which is the SIP registered transaction will be processed on the basis of credit and not as per SIP date? Yes, you're absolutely right. Regardless of whatever is your mode of payment, आप lump sum कर रहे हैं या SIP कर रहे हो, तो आपको जो पैसा जब हमारे बैंक अकाउंट में क्रेडिट होगा स्कीम के, उसी दिन का एनएवी मिलेगा. Okay. Or Kamlesh ji is saying best thing about UPI payments for MF purchase is that it allows the purchasers to buy units of NAV on the same day. Yes, you're right, because UPI would settle the payment on the same date if you're doing a lump sum, of course. From an SIP also, it will if they are within the cutoffs, then definitely you will receive the NAVs on that. This option is not yet launched. No, of course, option is live on our website. You can go and check this. There's one question, VNM, probably you can take it. They're asking whether the RTA has this facility.
Not yet. We're going to extend this into our platforms also. That's the way forward for us. Sure. It should be there quickly, very quickly.
One question on can HUF use UPI or not? Unfortunately, HUF falls under the non-individual segment, and as a result of which the mandate registration process does not allow that sort of feature. All right, so yeah, so we don't. Let me just refresh the screen once to see if there are any more questions. Mr. Yogesh Kulkarni has asked, will I get a notification for each recurring debit? Yes, you will get a notification for each recurring debit. All right, so I think that is something which we have now. Most of the questions which have come in so far, we are sorry we can't take each and every person's question. Some of them we have clubbed and asked. So there's a question about e-mandate. E-mandate registration also takes 3 days. Yeah. So when you register a mandate, the registration process happens quickly, but your first SIP debit for the setup, it takes minimum 10 days. And that's something which is getting eliminated if you use an UPI Autopay. And that's one of the reasons why we got excited by this feature, that if it's cutting down the timeline between investors' journey from wanting to get invested and actual investment, and that's something which got us jumped into our seats to collaborate with KFintech and Kate and Buildesk and come up with this innovative feature. So, gentlemen, I think that's where we will take a pause for today. Thank you, Karthik and VNM, for joining us on this launch webinar. Once again, I will say, Ye Diwali, UPI se SIP wali. We are wishing all the investors, distributors, and viewers of this webcast a very, very happy Diwali. Thank you. Take care.
Thank you.
This is
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.